Okay, I think we are live already. So hello everybody, welcome to a new chapter of our video interviews with the 3D food experts of the world, co-hosted by BotBQ and 3 Digital Cooks. Joining us from Frankfurt, Germany, we have Jason Masbrocker. Hello Jason, how are you?
Hello, some
Great, and myself, Luis Rodriguez from 3 Digital Cooks, based in Barcelona, Spain. And today we have Andrew from Structur3d. It's really good to have you here for a new video interview. For those who don't know, Structur3d and Andrew, well, Andrew, you're one of the founders, right?
Yeah, there were two founders for structured printing. Charles and I founded it about a year ago.
Okay, so I think it's way better if you explain to people what you guys do instead of me. It's better to know from firsthand.
Sure. So the quick kind of summary of what we do is we make a universal paste extruder for different desktop 3D printers. So our motivation was to make it universal in the sense of it worked with many printers and many materials. And one of the popular materials that has been picked up is the foods. So our device is called the Discovery. The E is a 3 in Discovery, just like in our structured. And we designed this unit to be compatible with all different styles of printers, like the Delta, the tiny little printer bots and micro printers, and be able to print everything from a very thick material down to paints that could be used for electronic sensors and things like that. So, like I said, two of the popular things that have come out of it, it's been picked up by a lot of the maker community, and the two kind of categories are new kind of flexible materials and then foods. So people experimenting with foods, just using it for different marketing and logo opportunities. But it's been very exciting.
Okay, I think that is a really way better explanation. So explain us more about you guys, how you guys meet together, how the company was formed, where the idea come from, and how do you get from there until the point where you are right now?
Yeah. So both Charles and I are. Charles has his PhD in chemistry, where he studied the printing of different biomaterials. And this was, I believe, a little over 10 years ago, before the RepRap movement got popular, before 3D printing kind of moved into the at-home market. So he had to build a lot of the different components on his own, and the plastic filament standard hadn't been set up. So he essentially devised his own paste printer for printing these different organic and biomaterials, which, as you know, have very similar properties, consistencies to foods. It's a very similar type material. At the same time, I was studying plastics. Actually, not the same time. A couple years later, but at a completely different university. I was studying plastic materials and being able to incorporate more green materials into the plastics to make them more environmentally friendly, and got to the point where I developed my own paste printer and was just excited by the possibilities with it beyond plastics. So being able to do all these different creative materials. So I'd been working on this probably 2 or 3 years ago, and decided to present a little bit of my research at a local hackerspace. It's called Quartz Lab, KW Arts Lab, for Kitchener-Waterloo. And I was discussing printing these nanomaterials that were derived from trees. And Charles was one of the few people who was really excited and passionate about this very technical, nerdy information I was presenting at a hackerspace. So we got to talking and realized he had built the very similar device during his PhD, and we had this feeling that there had to be other people out there that wanted these capabilities, even if they were just in a lab or in their basement. We knew there were people that would love to experiment with this. So at that point, we started kind of chatting with people at the makerspace, testing people out, just seeing if the idea resonated with them. And that's when we started hearing a lot about foods. Oh, can we print Nutella? Can we print different icing sugars? And that's where we were getting a lot of feedback and saw, different materials way beyond what we originally expected. So we, at that point, decided to test our idea as a startup. We through the Christmas break here in Canada in 2013, we put together an application for an accelerator program. And what the accelerator program was going to help us do was figure out if we had a viable product that we could turn into a business. So we knew that the product was awesome, it's something we loved, but was it something that could sustain a business and have room to grow? And this accelerator helped us prepare for our Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign, which I believe in the end was the ultimate deciding factor of whether this was a solid idea. So we ended up advertising our Discovery extruder on Kickstarter in last summer, so July 2014. And we were looking to make about 100 of these units, and we ended up selling about close to 400. So for us, that was super exciting. We ended up exceeding our predictions by about 400%. And we've spent a good portion of the last 8-9 months figuring out a lot of the different supply chain, setting up our own manufacturing facility here. So we actually build every single one of our devices and print with every single one of our devices before they go out. And we are also involved in the community a lot here too as well. So we do a lot of different promotional events where we're pushing 3D printing and different fabrication processes.
Yeah, I just saw you guys at the Midwest Rip Rap Festival. It's a pretty nice post with a lot of pictures. And how was the response from the community there?
The whole weekend was just excitement, both on our side and people coming to see us. For me, I built my first rep wrap several years ago, so being able to actually go to, this was kind of my first event where we got to share all of our cool inventions and projects. For me, I felt really excited to show it off, and the reception was awesome. Everybody was amazed with the fact that we're doing something beyond the plastics now. So there's a few companies getting into the different laser-based 3D printing, but sticking with the extrusion method is what we've done, and people were really excited about the possibilities of printing silicones, foods, a lot of applications there. So it was very well received.
I have a question for you. Let's go back. I think a couple of years ago, I think you applied for the accelerator 2012, no, 2013, Christmas, right? Christmas time.
Yes, Christmas 2013.
So I'm curious. You have a product. How or when you and Charles realized that there is a big interest, and where did you go to test that? Maybe you visit some local hackerspace, as you said. Maybe you fly to some other places. Maybe maker fairs. I don't know.
Yeah. So the first thing we did after developing our early prototype, spending some time in the basement, and at least showing that it was possible first, essentially proving it to ourselves, we went out and took samples to our local hackerspace, and the people's faces when they saw things that were not plastic, they're asking where we got these, and we said, we made these in our basement. Is this something you would be interested in? And the excitement was gathering from there. So we took it to the next step, which was going out on Reddit and putting out a bit of a bit of information and asking for a little bit more feedback. And as you guys are probably familiar, people on the internet are very honest. So this was our next step in testing the waters, was getting some real feedback from people that were just outside of our friends circle and could give us a little bit more of the honest feedback. And people thought it was really cool, and we ended up getting picked up by GigaOM with no anticipation of that happening and getting blogged about. So that gave us a little bit more confidence. So we ended up doing our public product demonstration at the San Francisco Maker Faire. So that would have been May 2014. So we've heard lots of stories. I'd been to a lot of mini maker fairs in Canada, but nothing prepared us for the 130,000 people we were going to see over the weekend. It was extremely overwhelming, but by the end of the weekend, we had collected we had this big glass jar and collected sticky notes with people's names who were interested, and we counted them up on the Sunday evening in the hotel and had close to 1,100 names. So that put smiles on our faces, and that was the the initial customer base that really helped us out on the Kickstarter, I believe, as well.
So I heard a few people already saying this, and that's what I was asking. Like, would you consider that the trip to Maker Faire actually was the point where you could validate your product, at least in terms of interest, at a big scale for this kind of maker target idea?
Yeah. So that was our hypothesis. So for us, it was coming from Canada. It was going to cost us some money, so it was risky for us. And if we did not get the acceptance that we did at Maker Faire, things could have gone very different. So there was a gamble, but for us, some of the comments we heard were very positive. So, for example, we were in the startup tent. So there were maybe 50 different companies within the startup tent, and the majority of them were all 3D printing and CNC. So people were coming up to us telling us we stood out from everyone else because we were doing something different. The other 48 companies there were doing the same thing, and we were distinguished enough and thinking innovatively enough to kind of be one step ahead, which made us feel really good as well.
Yeah, you touched on a point right there that I think is an issue that we have overall in low-cost 3D printing. It seems to be a lot of people are focused on utilizing the technology, and there's a core group of people really trying to advance it. And I think it'd be great to see the shift happen fairly soon to get the technology really moving forward there.
Exactly. And I've seen, and I've probably been paying a little bit closer attention, but there are some very creative printers coming, at least at the design stage right now, for different materials and multi-materials and hamburger meat.
That is a good one.
It is.
So following with the Discovery, that is your first extruder, right?
Yeah.
What is the target? Like, if there is somebody watching this interview, who is targeting?
Like the target customers for us right now. A lot of our customers, through the Kickstarter, we wanted to learn a little bit about our customers. So we tested the maker market, which is a very eclectic mix of people. There's artists, designers, scientists, engineers, and we kind of wanted to see where it picked up. And so far, what we've seen is a lot of interest at the hobbyist stage. We have a lot of of the true makers in their basement printing with our device. I would say a good majority. And the other small niches are people getting very focused into specific materials. So a few of them being silicones, clays, and other pottery type materials, and then foods. And each of those, all the way from kind of the commercial level to the research level. So we have a lot of different companies and researchers who are exploring their own materials they designed using the Discovery extruder. And that helps, or that makes Charles and I feel good because it's kind of come full circle. We were stuck in that position at one point, and there was no place to go and buy a device to test out this material we developed. So that's what we're able to provide now, is this, standard that people can now test these gray goos that they're developing, whether it be food, whether it be a nanomaterial, whether it be an aerospace application type thing. So that's what we're trying to enable.
I have one question, not too far off topic, but
Yep.
In case anybody here or is going to watch this is wondering, how exactly is the Discovery interfacing with the 3D printer? So how can you kind of give us a brief overview on how exactly it works?
Yep, exactly. So it's all mechanical. We have a device, and the Discovery will sit beside your 3D printer. So it's a little bit different than a lot of the traditional paste extruders, where the syringe or the vessel has been mounted right at the printer head. We actually have pulled that remote, and we have a small tubing that will connect to the head. So there's very little weight and very little momentum that's required to deposit the material. The trade-off is we require a lot of force to be able to push through the tube. So we've created a very strong mechanical actuation system that's pumping the material through a standard large syringe. So we can typically print 60 or 70 milliliter in volume. How it connects to your printer, other than the tube, it will connect with several standard tips that range in diameter of the nozzle from about 50 microns all the way up to 1.5 millimeters. So you can get a huge variety of nozzle diameters. And then the actual electrical system plugs in as if it were just another extruder motor. So as if it were extruder number 2 plugging into your electronics. It just has the 4 leads from the stepper motor. And the few modifications you'll need to make in your software have to do with just changing the extrusion multiplier and scaling up your flow rate.
This is pretty simple. It sounds pretty simple. That was one of the things that I wanted to keep it also with the BOPQ, and to make it as easy as possible to get to remove that giant barrier of entry a lot of people have when they think 3D printing, paste extrusion, hamburger printing. It's kind of scary at first. So for me, one thing with the BOPQ was to detail the instructions pretty well and remove that stress level to people jump on board. So that's great that you've been able to create such a device that's really simple for people to utilize it.
Yeah, and for the first iteration, we want to learn, and we are already learning very quickly, different capabilities. There are some trade-offs for keeping it simple, but there's also a lot of good things where we're capable of making, which is quite exciting. So yeah, like you said, it instantly drops down that barrier to entry, and there's a lot of room for fine-tuning and little intricate intricacies moving forward.
So the next thing that I kind of want to know is that last time we spoke, we were talking about the community, and I'm sure since the last time we talked, it's probably grown significantly. can you kind of tell us the community initiative you guys are running, where it's located, how people can find it, and what's kind of sort of the hot topics going on in that community?
Sure. Yeah. So one thing that we're really trying to promote, because, like you said, the paste printing, it's a bit scary. There's a lot of unknowns when you get started, especially because there are so many different plastics. We wanted to create a place where people could feel comfortable asking questions and sharing what they've learned about paste printing. So we've set up a discussion forum on our website. It's at forum.structur3d.io. And I'm just pulling it up now, and we're getting a lot of interesting discussions. What type of paste materials would you like to see 3D printing? Connecting your discovery to a Felix printer. There's actually one with food 3D printing that's gone up very recently, so that's very exciting. So we're trying to start this repository, this place where people can go either to seed some ideas for paste printing, or if they have some initial ideas, they can go to get a little bit help to take it to the next level. We see there's definitely a lot of value in that for something so new, and dealing with the maker type community. They're very passionate about sharing what they've learned, and we want to help create a place where that can happen.
That's right. So, so from a personal perspective, what type of foods have you guys printed on your own? Not speaking on the community, but can you kind of give us the rundown of the I don't know how to say this. I guess
menu?
the go no go on which foods print best in the discovery.
Yeah. So a lot of spreads print really well, so one thing that has been one of my personal fun projects is to try to find the weirdest food or the most bizarre food to print every time I go out to a show. So that's where the Nutella idea came from for San Francisco. I said, that was the first paste we wanted to try, because we don't have heating in our device right away. Nutella is the closest thing to printing chocolate, so we thought, let's try Nutella.
It tastes good too, really good.
And it tastes amazing. In the San Francisco sun, it has this aroma that attracts people over, which is also very, very pleasant. A little better than say ABS. So that was one of the early materials. So we kind of expanded from there. We started printing with royal frosting, which allowed us to tune the recipe. We could add a little bit more oil, a little bit more of the liquid to the sugar, so we could play with some different consistencies and mixing. And because we could add food coloring, we could print all these awesome colors right off the bat and get some really neat looking prints. This morning we were actually just printing with the Duncan Haynes off the shelf icing sugar that we're preparing to do a large trade show. We're printing 1,500 cookies over the weekend and be handing them out to guests. So we're just preparing for this high throughput food printing that we're getting ready for. And then some of the materials that printed okay, and I haven't had enough of an opportunity to fine-tune, but I believe they will print really well with a little more time, was Cheese Whiz. And there was actually the spray cheese video that went kind of viral there last week, the spray cheese 3D printer. We've done marshmallow fluff. So that actually printed quite well, but after it printed, the material settled. So I printed a snowman using the marshmallow fluff, and I was able to see it collapse in real time and melt, which was kind of entertaining. I printed that with a Maker Kids group, and they loved it.
That's awesome. One quick thing, one another thing about materials before Lewis jumps in and gets to the real questions here. What's the most exotic thing or extravagant or just off the wall thing that you've heard of or that's being used with the Discovery or was used with the Discovery?
The most amazing I've seen is some clay applications. It's one of the areas where I was a little weak, so we weren't able to pick out the best clays. There's a bit of a learning curve to be, doing pottery in general, and then being able to 3D print it. So we actually got one of our early units into the hands of a very, very clever maker who was printing with some clay, and he was able to get the resolution down on par with, say, a MakerBot or an Ultimaker style printer. And it was just amazing. And now he's on our forum talking about printing crystallized beeswax and honey. So it looks like he's actually going to be moving into the food area soon too. So it's very inspiring seeing what our customers are using. And it's something I've been very excited for is, they're going to have ideas way better than we can come up with. And I'm excited to learn from that as well.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know what is the status from you guys shipping all your Discovery Extruders to the world.
Yep. So we've shipped our first beta batch, which was the first customers that got on and put the purchase through Kickstarter. And we're actually building out the remainder of the units right now. So we did the production in a small batch first, and that helped us learn the process, refine it, and make sure the devices were in tip-top shape for us to ship out. And we've gone through that process, and now we're in the stage where we're beginning to ship the bulk of our orders. So out of the close to 400 units we've sold, we're just getting ready to ship the bulk of about 300 of those units.
So I was wondering if you have some sort of number, or I don't know, like maybe a percentage about the amount of people that is getting the extruder, or how is related to food, like maybe 20% or 50%, like this kind of number, to know about the interest.
Sure. Yeah. So I think based on what we've seen, I would say over half are going to at least try printing with food. Like, I think everyone has a bit of that interest. Like, it sounds exciting, as you know. It's something that, as humans, we're very passionate about food, and just tying in this very new creative technology to it. So I have a feeling a lot of our backers are at least going to dabble in 3D printing food, just because they can. And then, as for food-specific applications, it's a little easier for me to think of some of the business customers that we're having. I would say, yeah, probably somewhere around a quarter. Charles, would you agree? Our food customers? Yeah, about a quarter of our very focused customers are focused in the food area. We've had a cafe recently reach out to us who's interested in starting a chain that would have some 3D printing in each of their restaurants as an experiential opportunity. We actually have a university undergraduate team. They're chemical engineers, and they're working on using 3D printing food to enrich the experience for the elderly. So to make the eating time at a nursing home much more pleasurable through 3D printing food. So there are some very exciting applications coming out of our sales, and I'm sure there's going to be even more to grow.
Yeah, speaking on that topic real quick, I just had an article published on all3dp.com, and I touched on that specific aspect a lot in the article. So I don't know if whoever those guys are, maybe they want to check out maybe that'll give them some insight. But I'm sure those guys are way more smarter than I am, so they've probably already got their heads wrapped about all the ideas that I had.
Well, yeah, and I'll definitely put you guys in contact because there might be some interesting things to do there. But yeah, I'll pass on along that article.
So I have I have a few more things I want to talk to, but I think there is something that is important and interesting to know.
Yes.
And a little bit too much talking about it, but I'm really interested on how you guys evolved after the Kickstarter campaign and what is been the hustle that you have been going through in order to the point that, as far as I understood, you are already shipping devices and being on
Yep.
track with your customer.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Roller coaster.
yeah, it has been a roller coaster. As you're probably familiar, the Kickstarter it always ships late, and unfortunately, we were one of those companies too. But we stayed very true. We stayed close to our anticipated times. And one thing we did, to be very honest with our customers, was as soon as our Kickstarter campaign finished, we had been sending a message to our backers every week. So, we were very respectful that these people, essentially gave us some money to work on the project and build this for them, that we wanted to be very honest and transparent back. So we were providing updates every week, giving progress updates, and we wanted to keep those customers like they were in the loop and they knew what was going on. Because we did a lot of research into running a Kickstarter, and even though we delayed our shipping dates as much as we thought we would need to, there's always going to be a little bit more delay in figuring out supply chains, figuring out some manufacturing issues. So that's one thing that our backers have been very supportive of us, and we've been very honest with them as we've gone through. After the Kickstarter, I guess the biggest things we had to do, because we oversubscribed by 400%, one thing that Charles and I decided to do was actually put a little bit more time into making the device a little more robust. So we actually put a little bit more into the device we're shipping than we originally advertised, so that when our backers do get their device, they're getting a little bit more than they actually anticipated. Because we feel that, because this is such a new technology, we want the experience to be positive the first time they get the device. So we wanted to make sure that everything was operating nicely. Like I said, we like to print with every of the units before they go out. And this is also for us to learn. We want to understand, how to manufacture. This going through this process for the Discovery extruder will help us as we iterate and innovate moving forward. Now that the popularity of paste printing has exploded in the last year or two, we have to stay innovative and we have to design new products in order to serve our customers and give them what they need.
That actually gives me a hint to go to my next question, and is how do you guys picture? Obviously, I think you have been really focused on production and bringing the extruder to life. But how do you see the roadmap for Structur3d? Like, in your mind, is you guys still focus on paste extruders, or maybe you are thinking about your own printer or different other types of materials? What are your thoughts about this?
Right. So one thing that we want to differentiate ourselves as is being the materials knowledge base. So we want to provide the tools. We want to provide the infrastructure and community, and we want to provide the actual materials for 3D printing. That's kind of where we want to go long term. As you could imagine, we're exploring different materials that could be used very easily with the Discovery. We want to be able to expand the selection that's available for designers and artists beyond just different colored PLA and ABS. That's kind of our personal motivator. So long term, there's definitely materials we're working on, improvements to our discovery device. So we know we're working with makers and people who have a little bit more persistence right now, but we want to bring down the ease of use. We want to make it much more user-friendly so that people can get their outputs, their awesome 3D prints a lot faster. And we want to build up this knowledge base. We're learning as we go, and we want to learn fast enough that we can help educate the community and teach other people as well. So those are kind of the 3 areas we want to focus on moving forward.
So community tools and materials?
Exactly. So to answer your question about the printers, we want to collaborate with some other third-party printer manufacturers right now. We have amazing printers out there, so we don't want to build our own printer and compete with them. We want to collaborate with all of these guys.
That's a really cool vision, and I think it's really interesting what you explained about the materials. In what for what I know about you guys, I think both founders has a really materials strong knowledge.
That's our passion.
Yeah, towards what kind of applications would you be thinking, or it would be like wide open depending on what the community demands, or?
Well, that's part of it right now. Yeah, we want to learn. I think one of the obvious ones right now is the flexible silicones, because that's something that's very different than the plastics that people are seeing, and then possibly foods. Foods are a bit trickier for us. The regulatory issues might be a little tricky, shipping between Canada and USA and other countries, but it's something we want to actively explore. So I would say earlier it will be different engineering type materials, but long term we don't want to discriminate. We want to provide what the demand is. So whether that be we provide our own hazelnut spreads, or whether we provide some icing. There's a lot of options, and there could even be, as the technology evolves, there's a lot of room for reactionary chemistry, especially within food. There's a lot of options for, different processes happening during the 3D printing. So we're very open-minded moving forward.
That's really cool. And in order to make the community grow and interact with you guys, especially here, and make the whole thing evolve, how do you picture that is going to work for you guys?
So
are you following some model?
Yeah. So one thing we're trying to do to get started, we're following kind of the internet community model, which is, people. There's a lot of different communities of people online that are sharing information that they're very passionate about, and we kind of want to curate those people early, and we want to find those people who are very passionate about paste printing, and to do that, some of the things early on is we've tried to incentivize people by giving away different prizes and rewards for contributing to our website. So, for example, because our extruder is a universal extruder, and there are, over 1,000 different printers we're compatible with, we can't write 1,000 different user manuals. That's way too overwhelming for us. So we're incentivizing our community to share their integration. Say they're hooking it up to a MakerBot or to a Felix or a specific printer. If they publish that information moving forward, then we'll reward them, and that will help other people in our community integrate with their same printer, and hopefully grow that community.
I don't know about rewarding them on the MakerBot thing. Did I say that out loud? Anyway, so go ahead, Louis. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I think it's an interesting it's a really interesting thing to talk, and growing a community, it's not easy. I think it's mainly based on trust. I think you guys have done a really great job, especially going through Kickstarter, going through a Kickstarter project and delivering. I think that's a really good sign of trust. I don't know how to say or reliability. I think it's really important to be honest.
I think it's in integrity. You guys are following through with your main goals. You're not getting off track too far. You're supporting the community, and I think that's a great idea, incentivizing the people to contribute and be a part of it. And that's, I mean, just the task of that alone. I mean, I've been trying to focus somewhat on making the BOPIQ extruder design parametric, and also designing for other extruders other than Wade's extruder. And it's just tough, and I'm not an engineer or anything. I'm just doing it alone. And you have probably over a few hundred different types of printers that your device is capable of being used with. And yeah, I mean, no, that's a big task. So that's a great incentivizing the people to jump on board with it.
Yeah, and that's part of the thing is, Charles and I started as part of the community and realized there was, the resources were limited. So we're taking the first steps in helping, bring these people together and having a spot for people to go.
One quick question, and I hope I don't get too far off track of where Lewis is going, but obviously you came from the community, you go to the RepRap festivals, you wear green. I'm guessing there's a hint of RepRap in there somewhere because of that. So how do you feel about open source? Is there any plans for open sourcing the discovery or anything like that in the near future?
Sure. So yeah, I'm a huge supporter of the open source movement, and then on the other hand, I'm also very supportive of the startup community that we have here in Kitchener-Waterloo. So trying to find that balance is something that I'm very passionate about and I want to explore, because as you know, the trade-off of us being able to protect our device and not publish the fabrication right away is, to give us a bit of runway, so we can build a team and we can help put together the resources to help support the community. And that's what our goal is at the end of the day, is we want to be able to bring in enough resources so that we can supply the community with what they're looking for. That's kind of the motivation we have. So moving forward, people have already done teardowns of our device and posted them online, and that's not something we're against. They're actually published right on our own forum. So we want to support, whether people use our device or whether people are using another paste device, we want to support that. And then moving forward, like I said, as we iterate, there's a very good chance that we're going to be publishing a little bit more of the details of our earlier devices. So that's kind of been our motivator, is we want to have a little bit of a runway of time to set up our supply chain, to set up our community, but we're passionate about people paste printing, and if people want to build their own, we want them to have the plans, and we want them to come to us for support. So I think moving forward, it's something we're going to do. It's just going to be, I guess, once we've hit a steady state, once we've shipped our Kickstarter devices and have been able to meet our own needs, then we're going to start giving that right back to the community.
I think here we are talking about trying to find the balance between managing a startup and at the same time
promoting the open source hardware, and
yeah,
that is what helped us start very early on. Like, I worked with the RepRap, and I know Charles was a little early for the RepRap, but if that kind of movement was around while he started, I'm sure that would have benefited a lot of his research.
Yeah, but and at the same time, the idea of building a community, it's based in the idea of sharing, no? And
Exactly,
sharing
yeah. And that's
open.
something we want to do is share, is get it out there.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty passionate about open source. It's really opened my eyes to a lot of things, and it's helped me learn things I would never ever learn. And I think
Yeah,
you're right that the community is gonna do what they want with the device, and I mean anybody who wants to tear it apart and do whatever they want with it, they can. It's
yeah.
not a washing machine or a dishwasher or something like that.
So that
But
was that was
I think
actually.
go ahead.
I was going to say that was actually built in our design. We actually ship our design with an Allen key so that people can take it apart, they can mod it, they can hack it. So we didn't lock any of the device in, and we encourage our customers to take it apart and play with it. And that was part of where our upbringing and our background was, void your warranty, push it to the limits, and that's something we encourage our customers to do.
Yeah, that's cool that you support that. That's great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm a techie guy, and I always want to know things about how things work, and especially
Yep.
I think you have a really cool product, and I'm sure you guys have been really busy setting the production line or the manufacturing line that I know is somewhere around close to you right now. But
Yep.
I would like to poke you and ask you a few questions about what are your ideas for. Obviously, you cannot disclose these, maybe I don't know, but future ideas for new tools or evolutions for the extruder, like maybe multi-materials or different processes. I don't know if you have.
I'll give you three of the things that I think would be really cool, and I can't tell you whether we're working on them or not, but they're things that, as a maker, I would really want in 3D paste printing. The first one is going to be heat. So, especially for foods, like chocolate would be, going right back to the first thing we printed with being the Nutella. Chocolate has something, to do with the human psyche, and there's some affinity there. And I think being able to have some heating control for that, just some small heating control will be very advantageous. That will also allow you to do different wax substances for molding, different butters and things like that. So there's a lot of options there. So I think number one would be heating. Number two is going to be the ability to combine materials. So there's a lot of materials that will solidify, like liquids that will solidify when mixed. Will give some different swelling or different properties. So I think one example is epoxy. So even being able to print two-part epoxy and have it harden as it reaches the 3D print bed would there one the usability. So making the device more user-friendly. So less knowledge into the slicer settings and computer electronics are required, and you can just get to printing your chocolate right away. Those are the three things I would really want in the next paste extruder.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And in your mind, obviously,
That's what people want.
You picture maybe a new version, or not even coming up. What?
What? Sorry, I can't hear you very well. If you could repeat that last one.
Hearing myself right now. I don't know.
Oh, maybe I have you too loud then.
It could be. Sometimes it's always somebody's speaker.
Oh. Ow. I just turned mine way down so it can't hear me now. You get some feedback?
Everything here is off.
viewers.
I can hear you both.
Okay.
Okay. You want to ask your question again? Sorry.
I forgot.
Sorry.
I think what we were talking about. I need some.
He was given the three.
Yeah. The heat, mixing, and feedback.
Okay. So heating, mixing, and visibility. Yeah. So I was wondering your future timeline, or how do you structure growing and distribution or materials? How far in the timeline?
So we have our timeline right now to complete our shipment for the bulk of the Kickstarter is over the next few months. So we're pumping out several devices per day and getting them out onto the UPS trucks. So that's our primary focus, is to get those shipments out to our beta backers and to our Kickstarter backers. In the summertime is when we're hoping to really start working on some new either improvements to the current device or possibly making it coming out with a newer device. But that's stuff that we don't really want to plan yet until we get our Kickstarters out there. They are, our current focus. And then we want to probably be able to start supplying them with different materials that we vouch for, that we've curated, probably by the end of the year. So timeline-wise is probably materials end of year, and then maybe some new devices coming out next year.
I got one quick question. How do you clean the tube?
Yes, so we designed it to be reusable to some degree, but in most cases disposable. So if you're printing something like silicone, you could try to save the tube and use it for silicone later on, or just throw it out and use a very fresh tube. So the cost of the tubing is very cheap. The other option, if you're using food, would be to pump some soap and water through. So it's the same material as, say, Ziploc bags or Ziploc containers. So as long as you're washing it very thoroughly, in the food applications it's good. Some of the applications, like I said, like silicone, you want to start fresh with a completely new cartridge. So we've designed everything to be isolated, so your food or your silicone stays contamination free, and we've set it up so the cartridges are disposable. By disposable, I mean recyclable, and the idea is it keeps the contamination and things like that out of your tube, out of your prints.
I was always concerned about, because I know with prolific extruders, even like with what Lewis was working with, the one he designed actually, I always wondered how he's cleaning that tube, and your whole device is around that tube. It's everything. So
yeah.
Just wondering. I mean, you don't want to run Nutella through there and then some epoxy or some silicone and then some Nutella again, and then get a silicone Nutella cracker.
So, for example, we sell it was designed so the customer can source all these parts from different suppliers, or we actually sell the cartridges ourselves as well. So it's very easy, and the idea would be, yeah, you just swap it out with a new one.
Perfect. I think we're probably pushing the limits on the time here, but there's actually a couple questions. One more question that I've got, and I think Lewis wants to run something by you here.
Sure.
We went over the next. I'm really hearing myself again.
It turned in, might be me again. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now? Yeah, I
better?
can hear myself again. I don't know
I've got
what
you.
it is. Maybe I'll shut up for a second. Go ahead, Lewis. You're muted now, Lewis.
I think, Andrew, we're having some. I don't know if you have some. That would be. If not.
I got about half of that.
That half.
Okay, well, maybe I can do this for Lewis since I can barely even hear him. Can you hear him, Andrew?
No, I can hear you very well. I can hear Lewis is very, very quiet.
I don't know. Well, we've been on almost now. Let's wrap it up with how they can get a hold of you, how they can find you, any super projects. You mentioned you were printing 1,500 cookies for this weekend. You might want to mention how people can eat some of those cookies.
Sure. So the easiest way to learn a little bit more about us is to check out our website, Structur3d.io, and we spell structured with a 3. You can check us out. We're on all the major social media hangouts, so Google, Facebook, Twitter, and the like. The conference that we're preparing for is the Ontario Centres of Excellence, or OCE Discovery. So it's kind of ironic that we're going to be printing with the Discovery at the conference called the Discovery, where they're going to be showcasing lots of new technologies. And I believe that's April 26th, 27th in Toronto, Ontario, if people want to Google that for a little bit more information. And if anybody has any specific questions for me, feel free to reach out. I'm Andrew at Structur3d.io, and you'll get right into my inbox.
Can we get a preview of one of those cookies?
Yeah, if they haven't already been eaten.
Happens.
Lewis, that's pretty odd. We've got to get these technical difficulties figured out, I think.
It's some issue with Andrew's audio thing.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, but it's okay. We're
trying to optimize it to do about 1,500 of these, so we're using the.
That's good stuff.
It's Betty Crockard, and each one is going to have the company logo on them like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice work.
It's exciting and tasty. Tasty work.
So, Lewis, can you talk again? Is it working for you?
Hello?
A little better.
Yeah. For me, interview, we have learned a lot. Some more questions, or maybe you, Andrew, something else to our viewers. I hope this is just.
Oh, now you're muted.
Wait, Lewis, stop. I keep clicking the wrong one. There. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I was telling that I think it's really
it's not going to work. You're out of it. Can't hear anything. How about now?
Okay.
Now I
Yeah,
can hear you.
I mute Andrew. I will go. I will open the mic. Sorry for that.
All
So the idea is that I think it's a really cool time to be a really cool company. I think the way you guys are growing and your strategy is really cool, especially targeting the community. I really admire that, and that's going for sure to make us keep you on track. And oh, headphones, that's cool.
Yep. Sorry, I pulled them out a little late.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
So I was just saying
no,
that I really go ahead.
No, I heard what you said there. Thank you. Yeah, it's such an exciting time, and the support in the community here in Kitchener-Waterloo is amazing for the startups. The community online has been, extremely rewarding. Everyone's standing behind us, which is great, and we want to give back to them. So that's why we like to share this information. We're constantly making new content and love doing hangouts like this.
That's really great. Jason?
For me, that's it. Thanks for your time, Andrew. Really learned a lot. And maybe in the future we can do some sort of update, maybe in a few months, to see how you guys are progressing, how all the shipments went, maybe issues that have come up, new issues that have come up. Maybe you're further along on, possibly heating at the next version or something like that. But yeah, thanks a lot.
Cool. Yeah, and hopefully we'll have lots more to share by then. Go ahead, Lewis.
No, I'm even thinking that maybe we could schedule maybe in a month or whenever, like some special hangout just to talk about materials, maybe some discussions about food, things that we have tried, more specific topic related.
Yes.
But
Yeah, we can get a little bit more technical into the details.
That's my thing.
Great. Me too.
Okay.
Okay,
Awesome.
great. Well, thanks a lot, Andrew. Again, say hi to Charles and Olga for us.
Will do.
Signing off for Lewis in Barcelona, Andrew in Waterloo. Waterloo. And me, Jason, from Frankfurt. Thanks, everybody, for viewing, and we'll see you on the next video interview soon for 3digitalcooks.com. Ciao.